Hi everybody, good morning. Can you hear me? Can somebody write in the chat box or something if you can't unmute yourself?
Good morning, ma'am.
Hi, good morning. So we have around 9 people here, but I think there are 19 students in your class, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Ananta, are you the designated
Yes,
teacher
ma'am.
of the class, or is there some kind of hierarchy that I don't know about?
No, ma'am, there's nothing as such.
Okay. So can everybody else also turn on their videos just so I know and I can see your faces after a year or so? Because last time I met your class was last year. Hi, Rachel. Okay, one, I can see one person. Hi, Soumya.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. बाकी सारे क्या बस ऐसे छोड़ के चले गए हो क्या? Come on, this is I promise this is going to be an interesting class. I hope that it will be
No,
interesting.
ma'am, we're here. We're just not turning on the camera.
Bye. Okay. Hi.
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Can I please join through my laptop and then turn on my camera? It'll take.
You can turn on your camera from your phone. I just need to see that people are there. That's all. It's not an issue if I can't see your face properly or if you have stuff in the background. I also had to clean my room. So it's okay if your room isn't clean. I just need to know that this is not something that you just turned on and left. It seems like that. We will wait for a couple more minutes. Have you had any classes in new media writing this semester, or is this going to be your first class?
Ma'am, this is the
Ma'am,
first
this
class.
would be first class or fourth semester first class.
Okay. ठीक है, fourth semester first class. ठीक है, so welcome to
Yes, ma'am.
the fourth semester. You can turn off your videos if you want. That's okay. I see only 3 people turned on their videos, so 4, including Ananta. So let's.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
I am fine. I am glad to see all of you looking well. At least 4 of you looking well. जिनको मैं देख सकती हूँ. Just start on my phone. Yeah. Okay, so let's start. All of you have taken new media writing before, so I know that you know what new media writing is. So I won't be getting into that, but I will talk about some kind of concepts that we have, some kind of some of the concepts that you went through last year. Is my voice very clear, or do I need to use headphones or something?
Ma'am, I just
Ma'am, it
hear.
is pretty clear.
It's clear,
ma'am.
right? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, so let's begin then. What we'll be doing today is, and what I'm supposed to teach you is the second unit of new media writing, which is the section on George P. Landau. I think you have done a lot of sections from Hypertext 3.0 already, right? So we'll be looking at the 6th chapter this time, which is reconfiguring narrative. But before we get to that, we'll start that in some time. But before we get to that, we'll just go over an overview. We'll just have an overview of everything that you've done over the last year. Not everything, but basically related to hypertext. And then we'll begin with the text that we're supposed to do. And we'll also look at some examples of hypertext. So let's do that. Yeah. Okay. Can everybody see this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, let's start.
Yes.
So, what have you learned about new media writing last year? Huh? This is not going to be a lecture, just like in class. I will ask you questions and I will expect answers, and not only from the 4 or 5 people who turn on their videos, but the rest of you as well. So, please keep your ears open if you can't turn on your video. Right. So, what is new media? Last semester, you must have learned that there are 3 basic qualities that new media shares. First, there is an interplay between technology, the image, and the sound, which is present in new media. Then, new media is always changing, right? And the final thing is that there are a lot of possibilities of new media which have been explored over the past years. For example, by Landau in Hypertext 3.0. But we'll discuss that later. Let's talk about first. Let's talk about the interplay between technology and image and sound. So in normal old media texts, for example, if you take up a hardbound novel, what do you have? You do not have any kind of technology. The only technology that is used in a novel is the technology which was used to print it. It's a hard copy version right in front of you. There is no interplay between images or text, between images or sound. There's obviously no sound involved in narrative. The farthest a novel can go is a graphic novel or a graphic narrative where there is some interplay between text and images. But even then, technology is limited to the printing press, technology is limited to the color or the font or whatever type of book that you're trying to publish, never anything more. Right. So, but what does new media introduce? It introduces a lot of digital technologies. It introduces interactivity to these digital technologies. Can anybody give me an example of these three things? How technology, interactivity, and masses cohabit together in new media? Any kind of media example that comes to your mind? This is going to be so much fun, guys.
Ma'am, internet,
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking for something
use
more.
of it. Yeah, ma'am, it is a generalized notion that internet, but we have other platforms in the internet as well.
Okay. Like.
So,
World Wide Web.
ma'am, like to be very specific, I can give example of story space engine. So in this story space, it is a form of a platform where we can create hypertext fictions. For example, the Patchwork Girl. So it has been created in a hypertext format. So it is digital where we can use in this we can use images and texts as well. Plus, it is interactive and it is able to available to masses as well.
Okay, yeah, that's a good example. Let's
Yes,
move
ma'am.
on then. In the always changing frame. So when we say कि new media is always changing, what do you mean by that? Again, comparing it to old categories of media, for example, a newspaper. Once a newspaper is printed, it's done. The only thing that a newspaper is good for afterwards is archiving or wrapping up your clothes or stuffing, right? So once something in the old or traditional forms of media had been printed or given to the masses, there were hardly any changes you could make to it. Right. So, for example, if there is some kind of inaccuracy in a newspaper headline or something, what you can't change that headline and you can't change the content. What you have to do is publish a retraction in the next day's newspaper, or sometimes readers would send messages to the editor saying that, okay, this is a problem in this newspaper and it needs to be changed. So changing or the transitoriness of traditional media is almost non-existent, but new media is very transitory. A good example of this would be any kind of a news website. So, for example, if you go to Google News and if you access Google News, what do you see? That every day the format of Google News might change. Or if you just access Google as a search engine, you might see that every month or every year there are new doodles commemorating different occasions. So, what does that mean? That new media has this adaptability to inscribe changes on a very basic platform. So, you'll have a basic platform like Google upon which other changes can be inscribed, right? It is post-structural in nature. So I am sure that someone must have discussed the post-structural basis of new media with you. Can anybody apart from Soumya tell me about this? How is new media post-structural? Saloni?
Yes, ma'am. Introduction of hypertext, I would say.
Hmm.
And now we can annotate and add our own comments.
No, that's okay. I'm not talking about that. I'm just asking simple question. How is new media post-structural?
Ma'am, like traditional novels, we don't need to, read page by page. For example, if we take example of hypertext, there are links which are provided. We can just click on those link and we can reach to certain different pages and certain different novels that to which we can relate to. Whereas in the older works, there were like, if we are reading a novel in a traditional manner, a printed paper printed novel, so we'll read each and every chapter by chapter, page by page, and then we'll reach towards the end. Whereas in case of new medias and hypertext, we can we can read anything and everything we want by just a click of a by just a single click.
Okay, that's part of the answer. Okay, but we'll come back to the post-structurality of new media later. Let's move on to the second thing. I've already told you how it redefines old media. It creates new forms. It generates through websites, through knowledge portals like Wikipedia, social media. Everything is new media these days. The final thing is that, as Vijay Lakshmi said, hypertextuality. It provides links to text beyond itself. If you've ever accessed a Wikipedia article, you would know that new media is full of excuse me. So new media is full of links, full of pages which have hosts and nests of links. So you click on one article and then you land on another article and then you land on another article, right? So that is how hypertextuality works. I know you know all of this. Let's just go over some concepts all over again. So what are the possibilities of and in this I will need your support. So what do you think that new media is democratic? I know that Landa argues for this, but do you think so?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I feel it is comparatively democratic than it was before.
How is it comparatively democratic? How is it only partly democratic?
Ma'am, we cannot say it is fully democratic because at the backhand, we are controlled by the media, but we as a user feel that it is democratic as we have a say in it, or it is interactive. That makes us feel that it is democratic, but actually we are being played by the backhand of the media.
Okay, yeah, that's very well put. So Asmita, roll number 9, right? These are your roll numbers next to your names, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So
Yes, ma'am.
Asmita, what do you think about the second question? Who controls the content? So Ananda has slightly, hinted at this thing that media controls us in some ways. So do you think that the content which is put onto these websites has an agenda?
Yes, ma'am. They do have an agenda, but as previously, I guess Ananta said, or somebody who commented, that we are like, whatever we like, obviously we have a say, but somewhere we are also controlled. Like, we are not allowed, like, even people can report about the content, or if they do not find it pleasing or something, if they find it like abusive or something, so we can report the content also. We have that option. People are given that option. So ma'am, the content is like, not totally not controlled by the ones who are posting it. Somewhere there is like, somebody else who's also in control of that. So
Okay, I think that's a very interesting way of looking at it, because I thought you would say that the media is this, a subcultural entity, like we discussed during our lectures in cultural studies. The media controls us and we don't control the media. But this is a very interesting way of looking at it. Yes, that through comments or by reporting some kind of content, you can have that content down. So people do have some kind of control over the content that they are accessing. Okay, then let's come to the third issue that we have. How do social structures modulate new media? So, Nitisha, sorry, why don't you talk about this? Roll number 36.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Ma'am, what did you ask?
I am asking about your opinion on the third possibility of new media. How do social structures modulate new media? What is the connection between social structures and new media?
Ma'am, I feel like it is not truly democratic, and like there is a social hierarchy that goes. Some people can even, we can buy followers, and we can increase our subscribers, and all of this can be done. So I don't think it is genuine at all.
Okay.
Like,
And do you think that it has any kind of redeeming potential, any kind of positive potential also?
yes, ma'am, sometimes the original talent comes into limelight, but most of the times I don't think it is quite useful.
Okay. Very well put. Thank you. Right. So social structures modulating new media, there are both sides of the coin are present here. So on one hand, you have people who will try to control or create a social hierarchy, which through which they can control new media. A good example of this would be fake news and false propaganda that spread through the internet last year when the elections were happening in the United States, and which will probably become a normal part of how elections occur throughout the thing. And I see that people are joining at least like 15 minutes late. Please don't do that from tomorrow. Right. Let's come to the second aspect of social structure. So if you have some kind of positive aspect of social structure, what will those be like? That, as she said, you will have access to some kind of talent, some new people coming in, some new content, and fresh people coming out with fresh ideas. So new media and zones of new media, especially social media platforms like Instagram or Facebook, can also become platforms and foundations for the takeoff of protest movements, such as which happened in the case of Arab Spring, or which happened during the Delhi protests, or the citizenship amendment protests. So all of these platforms then become also resistive platforms. Right. Then let's come to the fourth possibility. Is traditional media declining? Um, okay, let's ask Simran. Simran, 63. So what's her opinion on this?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, can you please repeat the question?
Yes, I can. So, what do you think that traditional media things like hardcore newspapers or other forms of old media, do you think they're declining?
I think yes, ma'am, because people are more into e-books and everything is available on the mobile and internet, and it is easily accessible. So people are more interested in uh, internet, like Instagram, and we have Facebook. Everything is available there. So I think yeah, it is declining traditional media.
Yeah, this is a very popular opinion that traditional media is declining, but due to the coming of new media, for example, especially for newspapers. So, social media platforms didn't really exist before, so you can't really have a before new media and a post new media scenario. But for newspapers, this is a huge deal because you see that as a lot of newspapers are going online, there are a lot of sources from where you can get news from, and because of that there is not only a problem of how the news is curated, right, who is writing that news, who is reading that news, but also concerns about who is funding that news. So for example, portals like the Guardian or the Hindu, they have tried to stay away from traditional funding sources. They've tried to maintain an integrity of journalism in some ways, but at the same time, newspapers like maybe Dainik Bhaskar or Times of India or the Indian Express, they have shown sides. They have taken up certain sides in the debate because of the way that they've been funded. Because websites are very expensive to host in those ways. So obviously there is some kind of decline between traditional that old media is going through, but it is not really dead yet. Let's come to the third last concern. Is dromomanic speed of new media a concern? So dromomania is dromomania, MANIA. This is a theory by a cultural studies theorist called Paul Virilio, and he says that we are besieged by a lot of images every day. So, for example, if you go to the theater to watch a movie, you're not only going to watch a movie, you're at least going to watch 3 trailers of new movies that will be coming out soon, 5 or 6 different advertisements of places or people, a couple of advertisements of the theater that you're going for. Then you also might have to stand up for the national anthem. And then when you are in the interval, then there'll be more advertisements. So all of these images, you go to the cinema for the express purpose of watching a movie, but at the same time, you're assaulted and you're besieged and you're bombarded by all of these other images. The same thing goes for when you're driving down a highway. So if you're going down a highway or if you're going down a road, what do you see on both sides of the road? What you see is usually huge billboards with huge advertisements, huge posters asking you to buy this thing or try this thing or buy real estate or support this person. So what is this happening? What is happening is there's an assault of images. This assault of images is what Paul Virilio calls dromomania, the speed with which images tackle us. A good example of this is also your social media feed, right? So if you're scrolling through Instagram, Instagram is a very good example of this because everything needs to be accompanied by an image, right? So even if you're looking through stories and even if you're scrolling through your feed, what are you doing? You are looking at one image and going on to the next, going on to the next, going on to the next, right? So what is this? This is the speed of imagery which is moving past you, and Virilio calls this a hallmark of our postmodern new media world. So is this speed a concern? And I would like to hear the views of Tanya. Why don't you talk about this?
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the speed of new media is definitely a concern because, like you said, if we take the example of Instagram, if we somehow click or like a particular post, then we are bombarded with the sorry, then our whole feed is filled with the hello.
Yeah, you're audible. I'm listening to you. Your whole feed is filled
Sorry,
with.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Our whole feed is filled with the same post. If we somehow liked an anti BJP post, then our whole feed is filled with the anti BJP post. And ma'am, it's more because of the artificial intelligence, which is like guarding or it's like how do you say it uh just a second, ma'am.
Yeah, take your time.
Ma'am, I have seen a movie, The Social Network. So,
Hmm.
ma'am, in that movie, we are shown the speed how on the speed we are shown how new media has taken a very sorry, ma'am. I would like to pass on the question to someone else.
That's okay. It's a good example. So when the social network, the movie starts, and if you've seen it, I hope a lot of you have seen it. So how does he come up with the idea for the social network? What does he do? He just puts up pictures of women, and then he lists their characteristics uske niche. And the simplicity and the key idea of that platform is that it's so simple to go from one person to the next. The same concept is behind Tinder or Bumble or any kind of matrimony or dating apps that you see. You have one image and you have a certain set of characteristics to go with that image. Not a lot of things because nobody wants to read a lot. And then you move on to the next and then you move on to the next. And another good point that Tanya made is that not only does an image on Instagram or Facebook take up your entire screen, but at the same time, artificial intelligence softwares and algorithms today make sure that once you like something, you will never see the end of it. If I visit a website on Chrome and if I open Instagram later, it is highly likely that I will see some kind of advertisement from that website's products on my Instagram feed, which I can't do anything about. Right, so there is some
Yes,
sharing
ma'am.
and collection of data in uh, through this dromomanic speed of images, which becomes a concern. So yes, she made some good points. उसके बाद है is new media universal? So Shreya, can somebody tell her through your own associated network? Shreya, I don't know how to pronounce her name properly. We are going to move on, but this is going to be fun, all of you. Okay, Shalika, roll number 57.
Yes.
Hi.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
do you
Hello.
think new media is universal in its scope? So now there's a difference between universal and
In what
democratic.
sense?
That's what I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
See, democratic is that it is accessible. Universal is that it's the same everywhere. So do you think it's so?
Okay. Ma'am, my idea is that first of all, it is democratic in some sense. Like, for example, earlier people had to go to the publishing houses to get their books published. And because there was an imbalance in power, which means that the white people or the Caucasian race was more dominating over the others or the third world countries, you could publish your stuff less. And that was not even given much importance, even if it got published, or it was very difficult to go through the network. First thing. So democratically, internet has given some power, some kind of power that you can actually type and write, and people can access it. So somewhat, this is one point. Second, you said that is it universal? So for universal comes the capitalistic motive, and that is wherever internet is accessible and wherever the technology is available, and who gets power is the people who are not creating the content, but people who are creating the technology for the content. They are getting powerful. So algorithmically, you can control the whole world, and but the power vests not in the knowledge, but now in the techie people. So that is what I think. My views are on it.
Okay, so that's another way of looking at it. But what I really meant by the universal aspect was that, uh, for example, it's a very good example would be Google Doodles, right? So you get Google Doodles on a lot of Indian topics only in India. You don't get them all over the world. And in the same way, you get a lot of news specific stories or local specific. So if you go to Google News, you have a different tab for local stories, you have a different tab for world stories. And a person sitting here in India and a person sitting in London would have two very different Google News screens. So in that way, new media allows you the scope of being democratic, as she said, that it allows you the power over creating content, and it allows you to access that content, but it also makes you access that content differently. So things that you would see on your Facebook wall are not the same things a person sitting in the States would. Right. Finally, the virtuality is a necessary principle thing. I think we've discussed
Ma'am,
it.
I would
ma'am, I
like
would
to
say
echo.
that it is.
Okay, one person. Shalika, why don't you speak first?
Okay, ma'am, on this context, I would like to say that, sorry, can you please repeat once? I forgot.
What? Okay. So I was finishing it with key virtuality is not really a necessary principle. And usse pehle I was saying that a person sitting here and a person in the United States would not have the same Facebook feeds.
Right. That is the concept of new media, ma'am, that it allows you to customize your things, and that is the key of this new media that we are reading. And it is obviously it is divided in as the world is divided, you know. And so basically, we will not have same content or same universal content all over. That's
Yes,
it.
yes, that's a very good point to put it. The new media is as divided as the world is divided. Okay, Ananta, what were you going to say?
Ma'am, I would call it universal and adaptive. It adapts
Yes,
according to where we are, our choices, whatever we like, whatever we visit. So it is moreover adaptive than universal.
yes,
It gives
that's
us a
also very
universal
good.
perspective, but it is adaptive in nature.
Okay, okay. Okay. So then again, this is what we're going to do. I've already told you about this. What we'll do is we'll go through around 10 or 15 pages every day. And, I'm going to give you homework for tomorrow. So you have to read till page 225 or till page 226. First 10 pages, we'll be talking about them in class with some examples. Yes. What I wanted to do now is we will come back to this tomorrow. What I want to do now is try to show you what this person is going to talk about. Okay, so if I have this slide, so reconfiguring narrative. You've already seen, have you read his other sections on reconfiguring critical theory or reconfiguring the author or the text? Guys, can anybody answer me? Ananta?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So what are the other sections that you've read?
Ma'am, we've read the last section of this in the
Hmm.
last semester, and I think we've read the third one.
Okay, so you
Unit 3
haven't
and
read,
Unit.
so you guys have not read,
Hypertext and critical theory.
I'm sorry?
We have read hypertext and critical theory.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing that we have read is the politics of hypertext, who controls the text.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, ठीक है. So we've just covered the text. That's not an issue. So what we are going to do is then first we're going to talk about what is a hypertextual narrative. So do you have any examples apart from social media or Facebook about core hypertext narratives? Has anybody shown you these hypertext narratives? कोई भी बोल दो. Just
No, ma'am.
Tanya and Vijayalakshmi gave a presentation on hypertext.
I'm sorry. Could you please repeat?
Tanya and Vijayalakshmi gave a presentation on hypertext.
Okay, so Tanya and Vijayalakshmi, can somebody can one of you tell me about the kind of narratives that you discussed?
Ma'am, we kind of gave an overview of the whole subject, like of the overview of new media, what new media is, and how the narratives change gradually, like how
Okay.
it was in the traditional times and how it is nowadays. So we discussed all of that. It was a sort of overview to the subject. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now I've given you my own overview, and the objective was to test whether you guys knew what new media was, and I'm very happy to see that you know and that you've taken an interest in this. So what we're going to do now is, because we only have 15 minutes left, this class goes by very fast. We're going to look at some new media narratives in general, and I'm going to show you some examples. And then I want you to keep your minds open because, as you know, in my class, are going to have an assignment and it's not going to be very easy. But this is a fun part, and I had a lot of fun looking up these narratives, so I hope you'll have some fun looking at them too. So, this first example that I'm showing you is website, right? It's very simple. You can see that there are hypertext everywhere in the sense that it references. So there's this one basic form here, and it is referencing to other different articles. You have an advertisement here, you have flashing advertisements here. Again, on a single, it's on this single page, and only like a very small section of it, I can see 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 hyperlinks to different things, not counting the inbuilt basic platform links over here, right? And this flashing kind of the truths we uncover and the moments we create and all of this. So this flashing way of this flashing manner of putting images through is what Paul Virilio called dromomania, where images change in a flash. Right. So this is one example, and you know this. If you go to any website like Yahoo News or Google or anything, you will find a platform like this. Right. Let's look at this. This was one of my favorite hypertext things. I had a lot of fun doing this. So this is a game. So this is a game as a hypertext, and hypertext is basically what? It is a layering of narratives over one over the other. Right. So this is a game called Dancing Bush, which was invented when Bush was running for his second term. You can hear me properly. Yeah, so you can turn on the music. You can make Bush dance on a dance floor. Okay, you can add disco lights to his. I'm going to turn this off so you can hear me properly. You can turn spotlights on him. Okay, and he can actually dance through different moves also. So you have, this kind of move, and then other moves, and you can just go through this all day long. And the objective, there's no kind of this is not meant as an object of derision or some kind of ridicule that is being directed at Bush. No, what this is meant as is the power of imagery and the power of hypertextuality. How on one small platform you can make Bush or make any icon do a lot of different things. So not only are narratives just novels, because in these chapters that we have in our syllabus, we'll be discussing and we'll be looking at novels or hypertextual fiction. But hypertext can also be like this. Hypertext can be games, hypertext can be websites, and then hypertext can also be through images, right? It can be a layering of images and texts. So this Landau is going to talk about Christy Sheffield Sanford in the first section itself. When you start reading him, you will find a couple of examples of her work on the first two pages. So what she has done here is she has taken an image and she has layered that image over. So you see a background image, then you see the image of this woman over. Then you see how she has been accessorized through this kind of cap and then through a kind of blindfold, which is just actually an inverse image of the cap. And then you have some kind of text which has been written on top of this. Right. If you come to the second image, what do you see? You again have a woman. You again have some kind of dress which is coming in the backdrop, and then you have a superimposition of a map, of some kind of map over her head. Right. And what has she written here? Philippa in silk slip, walls fell crashing down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the links to this, and you can obviously go and read this up yourself. The point of this exercise is to show you the different kind of hypertextual narratives that can be created. So actually, as somebody in the beginning mentioned story shares, so we'll go for that also. Okay, now this is something that I really like. This is infections or inflections, right? Writing as a virus and hypertext as a meme with lexias by a diverse cast of authors. I know that you know about lexias. So can anybody tell me what is a lexia? How do you define it? Because you must have read about this in the chapters that you already did.
Ma'am, lexias are connecting links
Okay.
that connect to hypertext boxes. Like these are links which connect to hypertext.
Okay, yeah, very helpful. So
Yes.
lexias are the connecting links between hypertext, or sometimes they can also be like Barthes ke liye, for example, Roland Barthes ke liye. Lexias are blocks of text that you go from one point to the other when you're looking at this. So, for example, if I click hypertext as meme here, right, I am directed to this page which has different hypertext. So if I click to this, if I click this, then I am going to another page, and then another page, and then another page. I did this a long time, okay, but you've ultimately directed back and then forth, and you get the point. So this kind of lexia is what this kind of hypertextual narrative is what Landau is going to call a postmodern hypertextual narrative. Can anybody tell me why is this postmodern in his opinion, and why is this not modern? Why would this kind of narrative be called postmodern? It's an open question.
Ma'am, because it has elements from both modern and the previous.
Yeah, what kind of elements?
On the kind of text and the display of text, maybe.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. See, modernity is associated with the control over the narrative. So, for example, in the stream of consciousness style, the person whose consciousness you're reading about or you're sharing controls the flow of the narrative. If he tells you while walking down on the road, and if he does not describe the scene, then yeah, that is not going to happen. And I'm getting this thing, the meeting is going to end in 5 minutes. Okay. So I have to take your attendance also. I'll just finish this point. Why is this postmodern? This is postmodern because it's not linear, right? If I click this, it doesn't really take me to where I wanted to go. It could take me back, it could take me forth, it could take me round in circles. And that is the hallmark of a postmodern narrative. So I'm going to stop here. And we have almost 14 participants. I'm just going to take a screenshot. What we are going to do is we're going to pick this up from here tomorrow, and I want you to read at least the first 10 pages of chapter 6. Is that okay?
Ma'am, did you say it is not linear?
It is not linear. It is not linear in one sense. For example, it doesn't flow from one page to the next page to the next page.
Okay, ma'am.
we'll get over this. We'll get to this tomorrow. Linear in the sense that if you, I've taken all your names and everything, so don't worry about that. I'll just finish this point before this cuts me off. If you have a book, and if you take up a novel from the modernist era, or if you take up what do I say? So let's just think about a novel. You go from page 1 to 2. If you go from page 1 to 100, it will not make sense, right? So a narrative for the modernist needed to have a flow. Not only a flow of 1, 2, 3 pages, but also a flow of events. You know, it goes from an introduction and it goes to a middle and then it goes to a conclusion. But in the postmodern era, you have narratives which do not make any sense, which might start at the conclusion and then go to the beginning. You have reverse Bildungsroman, you have circular narratives, you know, which begin at one point and end at the same point. You have a lot of movies like that also. So in that sense, they are not linear narratives. And hypertexts written in the postmodernist form are also not linear. For example, you might click a link and you might think that it is taking you to some link, but it might not really take you where you want to go. It might not really tell you the definition of something. It might just take you to a completely different link or a broken link. It might frustrate your expectations in that way. So therefore, it is not a linear narrative. So websites like this, when you look at infections or you look at inflections, so websites like that, what do is they hamper the flow of narrative. They do not go from point A to point B. They go from point A to point Z, or maybe they don't take you to any point at all. And Landau says that this is an important marker of a hypertext being postmodernist. So do you get that now? Is this slightly clearer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I'm going to shut this. I'm going to stop this meeting now, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Wow.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.